Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, read to you by myself, Notilesi Tole, alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, let's have a look at our top stories. The Prime Minister, Cleopas Dlamini, says Eswatini has presented her national adaptation plan to the UN's climate change conference. The Minister of Justice encourages cooperation between countries to combat organized crime. Minister of Commerce Mancoba Khumalo says cooperatives are critical in achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Cleopas Dlamini says the Kingdom of Eswatini has already presented the Climate Change National Adaptation Plan to the United Nations Climate Change Conference. Dlamini says Eswatini is committed to reducing gases that contribute to the depletion of the ozone layer. The Premier was addressing the media at the King Mswati III International Airport before leaving for Scotland to represent His Majesty King Mswati III during COP26.
The United Nations Climate Change Conference will action towards minimizing climate change effects. The Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini says the country has committed towards minimizing gases that contribute to climate change.
Emaveke lathuthukile athembisa ukuthi atawubambisa emaveke asathuthuka ngekuwanika imali phela ukuthi alwe nale climate change. Ngoba nawulwa ne-climate change kufika kuthiwe ungasebenzisi emalahle. Na ungasebenzisi emalahle ke sokusho ukuthi sode kubasa letidulile. Kungoko lamavela athuthukile athi cha sisanika thina imali enganga 100 billion US dollars nemavela sangakathuthuki kuze ukuthi infinance indlela ekulwa nale climate change. Akuhambanga ke njengaleto kuthembiso imali tathola kepha tangabi anywhere near leti athembisiwe. Lokwenda ke ukuthi emavela lasathuthuka astruglishe kulwa nale climate change. Livela kithi ke uncane kakhulu leli kwengetako kulokushisa lokukhona. Kepha noma kunjalo sibhekekile nathi ukuthi sikontrol kwakona lokhu lesinako kungede kwengeteka. Eswatini ke njengawo onke emave seyisubmitile iplan yokuthi yona ngitiphi tinyathelo letathatha ukuthi ivimbe nokuncipha kwenyuka kwe-climate change. Yinto into lesitadenda eveni lakithi ukuthi singede sangeta kulokushisa lokukhona. Thina-ke nangabe singahamba kahle kulokhu lesifuna kukwenda kutasibita imali lenganga 1.5 billion US dollars. Lokuthi nje sintshintsha kule ndlela lesisebenta ngayo kumbe nasekhaya ungasabasi tinkhuni bese ubasa bogesi nani. Lokho ke kutawudzinga ukuthi sibe nemali lenengi kunaleli esinayo. Nayifika ke le mali yalamavela athuthukile itawungena kutosibambisa ukuthi nasi sikhone ukuthi sicomply nalokho.
More than 190 world leaders will participate, along with 10 of thousands of negotiators and government representatives. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, King Mswati III International Airport.
The Minister of Justice, Polilesha Kantu, says countries need to work together to combat organized crimes. The minister was speaking when officiating during an asset interagency collaboration at the Happy Valley Hotel in Eswatini.
Most countries are battling organized crime, where through these countries have resolved to bilateral relations in the fight against proceeds of crime. The Minister of Justice, through the office of the DPP, held a meeting with partners and representatives from other countries who have joined hands to fight against crime. Eswatini joined a RINSA network to be updated and hands-on on issues related to crime. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, Polilesha Kantu, says the things like cryptocurrency are sometimes misused and hard to trace. Through this meeting, financial intelligence will be collaborated on.
It is the Kingdom's commitment to always support the initiatives and strategic objectives of ARENSA, because without it, the efforts to combat transnational and organized crimes within the region would be in vain. Asset recovery initiatives in the Kingdom were initiated through the technical assistance obtained through the ARINSA network, wherein a series of capacity building exercises for the criminal justice system role players, such as prosecutors, investigators, and the judiciary participated. As a result of the capacity building exercise for the criminal justice role players, the jurisprudence in the field of asset recovery and forfeiture has been developed through case law and the common law system. Further, the jurisprudence of the ARINSA network has played a major role in collecting and compiling case law on asset recovery, which the Kingdom has tapped into, shaping its jurisprudence.
She says this will help investigators to be ahead on cybercrime issues since they are on the rise. Therefore, the Assets Recovery Intelligence Network will help create strides and partnership towards fighting organized crime and the recovery of assets. She says such cases may be low in Eswatini, but they cannot relax. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian Msibi, Mbabane.
The Minister for Tinkhundla Administration, David Ngampalala, encourages the Maswati to come up with innovative ideas that can be funded through the Regional Development Fund. The Minister was addressing Togotweni constituency residents, where he was unpacking how the fund works.
Development continues with his visit to different Tinkhundla centers within the country to sensitize the Maswati on how to apply for the Regional Development Fund.
Sithi ke bekunene lapha nduna lesikutele sekukhulunywa nga-RDF sikhwama lesi niyasathi kufundiswa kodwa sithi nje sesibuye itolo longathi siyasikhulumisa hawu namangena nje 2013 ngafika kungesi uyabuka ke uhulumende hawu yebe kunene yebo gesi siyamdinga asidingi lokhu yethu nje.
Minister David Ngampalala encourages Amaswati to come up with innovative ideas that will help sustain and have long-term benefits. Ngampalala says the fund has had to fund lots of rural electricity schemes, while projects that can generate money lag behind. Chief Ndlondlo of Malinza, Chief Dom, commended the minister for his visit, as many of Amaswati will be able to apply for the fund.
Zile sivile kuthi imali enkundleni timenjani. Minister siyabonga babe. Kuba khona kwakho utosicathatela ngemali yetinkundla. Kuthi imali yetinkundla tikhona akusho lokho ukuthi kadikho imali tikhona. Mhlambe bekukhuluma nje ukuthi imali kude kodwa ke sesivile ukuthi imali tikhona.
Jane Mkonda, representing the Lubombo Regional Administrator, stated that the region has the largest population which can contribute towards the development of the country. The Regional Development Fund's Director, Cornelius Lamini, stated that government invested 6.6 billion emalangini towards the Togotweni constituency's projects. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Malinza.
The Minister for Tinkhundla and Regional Development, David Ngampalala, says the ministry has engaged micro-projects to address the shortage of vehicles that affects community development officers. The minister was responding to questions posed by members of the House of Assembly on Thursday.
When the House of Assembly resumed its parliamentary business on Thursday, the House requested the Minister of Tinkhundla Administration and Development to apprise the House about plans the ministry has to address the shortage of transport for community development officers. The question was asked by Sigangeni Member of Parliament Mduduzi Matsebula. In response, the minister said the ministry is now working with micro-projects to buy 4 vehicles.
Micro-project lekungilona sithatha RDF simixa kubo ukuthi bamsebenze as micro-project. Savumelana nabo kwanyalo ukuthi batasibambisa bathuthukise kuthi makuyosetshenzwa lo msebenzi bathuthukise babasite nge-transport.
Members of the House had follow-up questions on the minister's response.
Ingabe likhanzela itiko ukuthi kungcono lokuthi sisebenzise micro-project yini
ngoba nama-cooperative inemisebenzi yakhe nokuthi leli tiko libe netimoto ngoba ngabe le moto yethu ayikhona vele kukhona tisita nje tinkundla njengoba sitata ukuthi i-region iyine tinkundla letiningi
angamele tinkundla letidlulako kuyinye ngabe litiko likhanza ukuthi kusebenta kahle endloko nalikhanza ukuthi akusebenzi kahle linaliphi licebo lokukulungisa.
The minister was also awarded the chance to reply to the questions posed by the members of the House.
Zabawashilo ukuthi akahlaleli lenkundla ukuthi ekseni uvuke etekulena inkundla njengoba besinabo esibani kuba nalenkundla ukuthi inema project langaka aqede atibuke libonele simo ukuthi uhulumende lo kanedinkinga asisebenzise microphone. The problem lesinayo ngale transport.
In closing, the minister said the availability of the cars will help improve development projects at the Tinkundla centers. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samgal Suekoza with Muslim Konta, Parliament.
The Minister for Commerce, Manqaba Khumalo, says the role of cooperatives is critical in achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. The Minister was speaking during an engagement with the Cooperative Federation of Eswatini State.
Cooperatives in Eswatini started in 1964 when the first cooperative proclamation was introduced during the colonial regime. The main objective for encouragement of cooperatives was to promote rural development. On Friday, the Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Manqaba Khumalo, had an engagement with the National Cooperative Federation of Eswatini stakeholders. Speaking during the meeting, the minister said the role of cooperatives is critical in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals.
The main objective was to encourage cooperatives so that we can promote rural development for indigenous farmers in Eswatini. The role of cooperatives, therefore, is critical in attaining the Sustainable Development Goals, otherwise known as SDGs, that were adopted on the 25th of September 2015. The United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development aims to end all forms of poverty across the globe. Cooperatives, therefore, have the potential to make sustainable and substantial contribution to achieving the SDGs, thus alleviating poverty. Since cooperatives are actually business entities, they also contribute to job creation as well as wealth creation. They enhance human dignity and provide better opportunities for their members. Through cooperatives, the success of future generations is assured. Educated decision-making is essential to a cooperative success, and cooperatives also teach new skills from adult literacy to business acumen.
The minister further mentioned that the ministry strives to be a key driver in the facilitation of an enabling environment for economic growth. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I am Samka Suekoza with Gianni Msibi Sulwini.
The Director of Water Affairs, Trevor Shongwe, says the ministry is in a process of using a generator to draw water from the Republic of South Africa to address water scarcity that has engulfed Lavumisa and surrounding areas. According to the Director of Water Affairs, Lavumisa has been experiencing water shortages since February.
Since February this year, the Lavumisa and surroundings residents have been experiencing water shortages. The Director of Water Affairs in the Ministry of Natural Resources, Trevor Shongwe, says the ministry is in processes with the Republic of South Africa, where the water is sourced, to have a generator as an interim method.
So the water that is currently being pumped is water that is going to be used for first priority, which is domestic water supply. And then irrigation will then come in after we've built enough storage in the reservoir. For now, we are requesting the water users to actually be patient with us as we are trying to build up the storage in the facility. So as of Monday next week, we'll actually have our system balanced in the way that water will be starting to flow in taps with our reservoirs having been filled. But for now, we are urging all water users not to panic and not because we're still building up the storage, and we are requesting the nation to bear with us, and we request and we appreciate the support that we've got from the leadership of that area, from the Intingundla centers, that is Somtongo and Matsanjeni.
According to the Ministry of Natural Resources report, currently Eswatini stands at 84% national water coverage, whereas rural water coverage stands at 81% and 94% at the urban settlements. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
Lifespan Laboratories have launched a client app where clients can make appointments and avoid long queues. This is in line with embracing technology in serving their clients. Our reporter Kian MCB has more.
Lifespan Diagnostics have launched an app which is already available on Google Play Store and soon to be available on App Store, aimed at embracing the use of technology in making appointments and getting results, amongst other things. The CEO of Lifespan, Zinhle Matsabula, says they are happy to introduce the use of technology to avoid long queues and eliminate waiting time while waiting for results, especially during COVID-19 tests, amongst other tests.
So Lifespan Diagnostic, what we actually do, we want to empower the youth and create jobs and ensure that we grow our economy. That's why we have everything here fully fledged. We don't take samples and transport them to South Africa, but we have innovative youth and there are professionals that run the samples in the country. And the main reason why we want to do things in countries to ensure that a health solution are easily accessible, and we decrease the turnaround times for the results, so that medical doctors and or prescribers can have the results and ensure that they have a full diagnosis as early as possible and treatment interventions are introduced timely. So what is going to happen with our app? You're going to register and get your results from the app. So we are making sure that, one, the turnaround time to get your results, and you don't need to go to the centers for you to get results. You can get it straight from the app. And the other very, very, very important aspect of it is that our test for COVID now, they cost actually 750, but when we're using the app, their test is 700 rands, which is actually cheaper, because one of the ways to ensure that we make the test cost effective, so that people that needs to benefit from them, they do actually benefit, and they're able to travel to different countries, mainly those that want to do it for business purposes. It's important that we have the app readily available for it to be used.
This does not only make Lifespan competitive but also assist other laboratories and the Ministry of Health, as well as achieving a literate technology familiar in Eswatini, as per the wish of government and the use of technology as we are nearing 2022 as a nation, a first world Eswatini. For Eswatini TV News, I'm Kian MCB, Mbabane.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets. Good evening once again. You're still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. The Premier League of Eswatini has once again postponed the start of the MTN Premier League season of 2021-2022. According to the PLE Executive Chairman, Mark Carmichael, the decision to postpone the kickoff of the league was influenced by government's decision to allow 2,000 vaccinated fans to watch the games live.
Following the announcement by the Prime Minister Cleopas Lamine on Thursday, when announcing that 2,000 vaccinated supporters will be allowed in both stadiums, being Mauso and Somflo National Stadium, with 500 supporters being allowed to attend from open ground. The Premier League of Eswatini has postponed the kick of the new season that was expected to begin this weekend to next weekend. Chairman of the Premier League of Eswatini, Mark Carmichael, says this is one way to give a chance to more supporters to get a chance and vaccinate for COVID-19.
One of the reasons as well is that the relaxation and permission to host fans and supporters. There is regulations that have been put down by Ministry of Health as well as the Ministry of Sports in conjunction with IFA as well as FIFA and standard COVID protocols. And we felt it proper that we engage all stakeholders in this very exciting time to all be on board when we roll out the league program. So there will be consultations, fans will be guided, supporters will be guided on the procedures that will be employed at stadiums for vaccinated fans, as well as fans that possibly want to vaccinate on the day. But we encourage the fans to vaccinate as soon as possible.
Other issues highlighted by Carmichael include the return of Somplo National Stadium, which he says should be available before the end of this year. Carmichael also touched on the issue of pre-sale ticketing that will also play a big role in controlling and monitoring the number of supporters in stadiums. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Mbabane.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. The Prime Minister, Cleopas Dlamini, says Eswatini has presented her national adaptation plan to the UN's climate change conference. The Minister of Justice encourages cooperation between countries to combat organized crime. Minister of Commerce, Mangoba Kumalo, says cooperatives are critical in achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the update from myself and the team here at Eswatini TV. Have a good one. Good night.